six-story building that's 127 feet tall with a large central chamber reserved for the coins. That would be great information, but the cube design is completely different from what I'm most interested in. The TV show's bin, both in the original series as well as the reboot, which we can see is taller and more narrow. So with so much conflicting information, what do? Well, the way I see it, we go to the most reliable source on the matter. Episode 15 of Season 1 of the original DuckTales TV show, The Money Vanishes. In it, we see the criminal family, the Beagle Boys, trick Scrooge into dousing his money with a teleportation spray. It's a plan that's so successful, they're able to clear the vault of all its money, leaving Scrooge penniless at the bottom. 20 minutes and 40 seconds into that episode, we get the clearest shot of the complete volume of the money vault that we ever get across the entirety of the series. And even better, Scrooge is in it. So if we're able to identify his canon height, we'll be able to get a sense of scale to this entire scene. No weird exterior shots, no guessing about the accuracy of offhanded remarks, just one scene that shows us the complete inside of the vault and gives us the means to measure it. A theorist's dream. So question 1, how tall is Scrooge? Thankfully, this has an official answer, but you gotta dig deep for it. In the 1963 comic For Old Dime's Sake, we see villainous Magica Dispel put Scrooge to sleep, and then measure him so she can assume his identity and sneak into the vault. According to that panel, he's just about 3 feet tall, or 0.91 meters. Now, to translate that information to the money bin. We see in the blueprints for the money bin that the ladder that leads to the bottom is officially canon. So if we know the height of the ladder, we can get an accurate read of the entire building. In that scene from The Money Vanishes, between counting the rungs you can see and estimating the ones that are either just slightly off screen or aren't clearly defined near the top of the animation, you get about 30 rungs total on the ladder. But how far apart are those rungs? To figure that out, we have to go back to the very first episode. In that episode, we see Scrooge using the ladder to pull himself out of the bin, with each rung gap about a third of his height. With Scrooge being 3 feet tall, that means each rung is about 1 foot apart, and the ladder as a whole being just about 30 feet tall. That seems low to me, so let's double check using some of that other information we have. In the very opening seconds of the very first episode of DuckTales, we see the actual depth gauge to the vault, and it shows 70 deep. Seeing this, I was heartbroken, but then I realized, 70 what? 70 feet? It can't be, because we see Scrooge in the background. If we were to measure his size relative to that depth gauge, he'd be 20 feet tall. What is he, Wario? And remember, that's with Scrooge further back in the shot, so perspective-wise, he's even smaller relative to the depth gauge than he normally would be. And if 3 foot tall Scrooge is 20 markings on the depth gauge, that means 70 markings is only about 10 feet deep of gold, even less than before. So it would appear consistent scaling in this world is gonna have more issues than Teen Vogue. That's a magazine with a lot of issues, just so you know. It was meant to be funny, but no, the cringy puns are just too real.